the problems that you guys face with the BYOD, because with VDI, you can keep some of the critical data that's sensitive, whether it be healthcare or financial, in the data center and just surface it via the terminal emulation or other technologies to the endpoint. And that can happen on mobile devices as well. There's no, I mean, you can also, many of you have already probably experienced using Citrix and things on an iPad. It works great, actually. Speech recognition. So in a lot of the applications today where we have a human interacting, you can think of being replaced by speech recognition technology. And I'm not talking about the standard IVR kind of thing. I'm talking about technologies like IBM's Watson, right, where you've got this giant brain that lives in the cloud, you've got a client on your phone potentially, and you can speak to it as if it were a human, right? I don't know if you guys remember Star Trek 4 where Scotty says, "Computer," and he's speaking into the mouse, right? You know, we can finally do that today. You have to speak into the mouse. You can just talk to the computer, and it'll answer you. I mean, it's going to go way beyond just the Jeopardy championship that IBM won. But that kind of technology, if it's on your phone, you can talk to your phone just as if it were an agent. And in a lot of cases, it's going to be a lot smarter than the human agent because of the intelligence that's up there in the cloud. So, being an ex-IBM guy, I'm staying close to that technology, and I'm thinking about how we can leverage it moving forward in some sort of partnership. But that's not even anywhere near formalized yet. And I think there's a lot of interesting things we can do before we get to there. And I think it's going to take IBM a while to commercialize Watson the way it needs to be for that kind of an application. Social. Especially when you add the ability to localize where the interaction is coming from, as you could on a smartphone, provides a lot of potential customer experience improvements. You think about interaction that a customer might have in a retail store where they might need to talk to an agent. You know, an out-of-stock item has been promoted and they're standing in front of an empty shelf. What could happen? We'll talk a little bit more about that. In a bank branch where the lines are too long, there's applications there. It becomes very interesting what can happen with not only the mobile and presence, but when you add the social aspect into it as well. And we'll get to the social aspect at the end. Communication-enabled business processes. Really, that's what the IMS and SIP are going to be able to do. So as a customer interacts with the call center, with an agent in the store, with an agent in the cloud, with a speech device, they're going to want to be able to migrate to the place in the enterprise that has the data they need, essentially even in the back office. So while we had what we have today, business process management software that manages the processes themselves, we don't really have anything that enables the human interactions that happen along those same processes. And I think that's a huge opportunity to do value add for communication-enabled business processes. So what are the possibilities? I talked about the out-of-stock item in the shelf, right? So a customer's in a store, he gets pushed a coupon for an item because they know he's in the store. They've got the application on his on a smartphone, and he goes to get the item, and it's empty, right? So if he had a unified IP-enabled app, retailer app on his phone, he could hit the app, he could connect him to a call center in the cloud, or he can even do it via text, or he can talk to Siri in the far future, or Watson, and explain that, hey, I've got this coupon, I want this item, what can you do for me? Well, depending on the retailer and what type of inventory information they have, they might want to contact that store and check the stock room to see if it's in stock in the stock room. It's just not been shelved. So they can transfer it down to an agent in the store that's been trained to handle these types of interactions. He's got the mobile tablet app, right? the information comes down, the request comes down, the customer's information comes down with it because they know who he is, he's loyal, he's got the app on his phone. And he says, this guy is in aisle 4, they know where they stock the item, and he wants to check the back room. So you can interact personally with the customer, check the back room, see if the stock is there, and if it's not, you could actually start an online transaction there on the tablet and transfer the session to the customer to complete. Right? If we have fixed mobile convergence, there's nothing to stop us from moving that HTTP session from one machine to another. Right? We just need to get the roadblocks out of the way. It needs to collaborate with a customer or a doctor or a clinician, in this case of the pharmaceutical trials. They send emails, they make phone calls, they do all kinds of stuff today, potentially, that could be really enabled with the same types of technology because you've got this session. Typically, it'll be in the future, it'll be a web-based application. In a lot of clinical stuff, it's actually SaaS. You could transfer that whole session with the question and the telephone interaction to the clinician that you need to collaborate with, right? The enablement and the efficiencies gained by not having to read the information off the screen, sharing the session immediately, bringing multiple groups of people together potentially to solve a problem is all enabled with this technology. And we can do this today. We just can't do it with the multi-session thing, but we can do it one-on-one with our technologies. Health insurance, same back office situation. At least in the U.S., it's a big thing now because we're enabling these healthcare markets where people can sign up for their own healthcare, and they need visibility into that application process. And there's doctors that get involved to do the underwriting and figure out, what the risk is for that individual. They can't deny them, but they still want to understand the risk. So the same types of interactions that are enabled between the business process that we just talked about in the pharmaceuticals could happen between a doctor and a patient on a website, on a phone, on a mobile device, even if they're not at home at that point, can all be enabled with this technology. So in a bank, you could do pre-processing of transactions while they're in line. Business banking applications, insurance companies for underwriting claims. Same example. So let's do another example for Starbucks. So I know you guys have different coffee companies here. We also have Starbucks. And, my favorite Starbucks is not a drive-through. There's a lot of them that are, but many Starbucks are not drive-throughs. And sometimes when I go in the morning, the line's out the door, and I'm like, oh, forget that. I'm just going to go somewhere else. But what if I had, again, a unified IP-enabled app on my phone where I could type in, I could just hit a button, and it puts my standard order in for the coffee I drink in the morning into Starbucks. And using our routing technology again, knowing where I am, because it knows the location, I'm in front of the store, they know what store it is, route the order down to a agent desktop app on the point of sale in the store. So you can queue up the orders just like you queue up calls in a call center. And depending on the policies that you want to implement in the retail store, in the Starbucks store, you can take 2 physical lines and then fulfill one order from the web or from the cloud, and then do another 2 and fulfill another one. So you can interleave the fulfillment in the store, and I wouldn't have to stand at the end of the 15-person line. I might get bumped up 2 or 3 or 5 people because I'm a loyal person, I have the app, and I use the technology. That's another fairly simple example of how our technology could be used today that's innovative and outside traditional call center applications. Social. So what can we do in the area of social? I'm running out of time, so I'll do this a little quicker. You guys understand the trends and the impact that social has on a brand and on the brand image that the public has. And it's not just the young people, as someone mentioned earlier about reading the books. While the younger people are the ones that are actually creating the content, and commenting, the 55-plussers are there. They're just watching. They're not joining. So everyone's paying attention to social media. The statistics we mentioned earlier, 66% of adults have used social media, and something like 64% have used it to make some sort of customer service claim. So again, the trends are really undeniable. So what can we do with our technology combined with social media today? Well, that same example of the guy in the store at the app, with the mobile app, well, what if he got really pissed off that the out-of-stock item wasn't there in his store, and he went on Facebook and said, you know, 2 minutes ago, I just got this coupon, I walk into the store, and they don't have the thing, right? And he posted on Facebook. Well, using Aspect Social, we would detect that post, because it's about our brand, on the site, and we could actually it would be routed to a social agent within the call center that's trained to handle social engagements, and they could send a response back that doesn't say we're very sorry, we'll try to do better with our on-stock performance in the future. You could actually send him a link to a Facebook app that accesses our technology and unified communications underpinnings to contact the contact center directly, or to speak to a person, or to offer to fulfill via the web or via the call center. That's a simple thing that we can do today, and our professional services guys would love me if I could recruit one of you guys, because they love to demonstrate those types of things in the market. So these are the kinds of things that we are just dying to do with someone, and this is fairly new, this concept that I've only presented this to a few customers. The APAC conference is the first one I've been to, looking for these types of innovators. So if you feel the possibility of improving your customer's experience, if you're willing to be a pathfinder, do something new, be the first to market with a new type of experience for your customers, and it doesn't really matter what industry you're in, whether you're in communications, pharmaceuticals, retail, online retail, there's applications that we can come up for all this stuff, and I think it would be unique. It would drive value to you, to your brands, and your consumers, and it would help us become that company that innovated, 10, 15, 20 years ago that someone in the back mentioned earlier. So I really appreciate the comment. It's fun to be part of a brand that has that kind of heritage. So that's my talk. I guess I'm up after lunch too. We'll talk about we'll talk a little bit more about enabling social workforce after lunch. But I won't stand in the way of your bellies, and thank you very much for listening, and I hope someone takes me up on my offer. So social media in the contact center. So far, many of the solutions that are out there are just listeners, right? So from an agent perspective, you have to read the information, maybe retype it into a customer contact system, CRM system. Other agents may be doing the same thing. The managers really have no visibility into who's doing what, who's responded to what. There's not really a lot of technology to organize the whole process, and that's where Aspect Social really comes in, and contributes a lot of value. So we really want to make it a dialogue, a social dialogue, just as if you were using the contact center via voice or text, SMS, two-way conversation, and may have that same experience enabled via social media. So what is our social media site? It's an on-demand product, so it's in the contact center. It's focused on measuring social service efforts and outcomes. It is focused on there's an agent interface, there's an agent desktop.